Do you want to live a long and healthy life? There's a place where people regularly live past 100, without gyms, green juices, or longevity podcasts. It's not a luxury wellness retreat. It's not a wealthy enclave. It's a rugged, sun-baked stretch of land on the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, the Nicoya Peninsula. And the way they live is surprisingly simple. In this video I'll show you why Nicoya matters, the exact daily habits, food, movement, sleep, that keep people thriving into their 90s, and what makes Nicoya different from everywhere else. And stay on to the end because I'll give you 3 simple changes you can start this week that borrow directly from how they live. This is the 5th video in this series on the 4th Blue Zone. So first, why the Nicoya Peninsula matters. This is based off information in the book The Blue Zones by Dan Buettner. The link is in the description. So as I said, Nicoya is a rugged peninsula on the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, home to roughly 47,000 people. It's not a luxury resort, it's not a wealthy enclave, yet people here routinely live past 90, often into their hundreds, and they stay active while doing it. When demographers first dug into the records in 2002, they were stunned. Luis Rosero Bixby used official birth and death registers and found that a Costa Rican man at age 60 on the peninsula had about twice the chance of reaching 90 as a man in the United States, France, or even Japan. If a man made it to 90, Rosero Bixby found, he could expect another 4.4 years of life on average. Again, higher than in most developed countries. A few years later, in 2005, a Belgian demographer, Michel Paulin, heard about the findings and went to Nicoya to confirm them himself, checking baptismal records, municipal IDs, and interviewing the oldest residents. What that research uncovered eventually put Nicoya on a very short list. Around the world, scientists have identified just 5 blue zones, places where people live the longest and healthiest lives on Earth, like Sardinia in Italy, Okinawa in Japan, and Loma Linda in the USA. The outcomes are striking and practical, not just anecdotal. In Nicoya, the cancer mortality rate is about 23% lower than the national average in Costa Rica. Populations in areas with hard, mineral-rich water have shown up to 25% fewer deaths from heart disease in international comparisons. Nicoyan elders maintain physical function into very old age, walking, gardening, carrying firewood, and doing household chores well into their 80s and 90s. And in basic health and fitness tests, Nicoyan centenarians often perform better than peers in many other regions. They tend to be taller, leaner, and remain capable of daily tasks. And one detail that makes the finding even more surprising: Costa Rica spends only about 15% of what the US spends on healthcare, yet the Nicoya region produces some of the world's healthiest older adults. That's not a small anomaly. It's a signal that long, healthy lives here aren't simply the result of expensive medicine or isolated wealth. So Nicoya isn't just a place where people live long. They don't just live long, they live well. Fewer diseases, fewer fractures, strong physical function, and decades of active social life. So now we know it's not just genes or wealth. Next we'll look at what they actually do every day. The diet, the movement, the routines, lifestyle. Diet, daily movement, and rhythm. Diet. First, the headline. Maize plus beans plus fruit every day. That simple triangle is the backbone of Nicoya's diet, and it shows up in markets, gardens, and on the tables of centenarians like Panchita and Dan Faustino. Let me unpack the pieces. Nixtamalized corn. On Nicoya, corn isn't just boiled, it's soaked in lime, calcium hydroxide, rinsed and then ground into dough for tortillas. The locals call the result maize nixquizado. That old technique unlocks the amino acids so the body can use the protein more fully, infuses the grain with extra calcium, and even raises the antioxidant availability compared with raw corn. In short, a daily staple becomes a more nutritious, bone-supporting food over a lifetime. Beans and rice. Beans are the protein backbone, high in fibre, packed with plant protein and slow-burning carbs that stabilise blood sugar and feed a healthy gut. Paired with corn, they form a nearly complete, affordable protein. That legume and grain pairing shows up again and again in long-lived communities. Fruit all the time. Nicoyan yards and markets are loaded with papaya, bananas, sweet lemons, oranges, pineapple, even exotic local varieties like Maranon, extremely rich in vitamin C. Steady daily vitamin C and beta-carotene intake likely helps blunt the damaging effects of Helicobacter pylori and contributes to Nicoya's notably lower stomach cancer rates. Here's what Panchita's kitchen looks like. A bowl of papayas and bananas on the counter, tortillas pressed by hand, beans simmering on a wood-fired fogone, nothing processed, nothing packaged, fruit within arm's reach. Moderation and rhythm. Nicoyans, like many of the other past Bluesians I've covered, don't gorge at night. Their biggest meal is usually midday. Something like soup, sometimes with a few bits of meat, followed by rice and beans and a tortilla. Dinner is smaller and earlier, served at dusk. That pattern, heavier earlier, lighter later, is a clear signal across blue zones and helps keep weight and metabolism steady over decades. What about meat, eggs and fat? Nicoyans aren't strict vegetarians, but meat is rare and highly seasonal. Most plates are plant-forward. For example, Juvenil Munoz, a 90-year-old, told researchers, beans, tortillas, fruit, and once a year beef when I butcher a cow. When they first met him, they thought he was 60. His diet and activity had kept him remarkably lean and strong. When researchers visited people still living the traditional life in Juan Diaz, they heard the same practical answers. Beans and rice, or rice and beans. We eat what God provides, Ananias explained. Eggs, rice, beans. Sometimes we kill a chicken. On meat frequency, he shrugged. It depends how the pocketbook is. If it's good, maybe once or twice a week. So even historically, the diet was mostly plants, with occasional eggs or meat. Simple, seasonal, and nutrient-rich. Here's why the diet works so well. Nixtamalized corn improves nutrient absorption and calcium intake. Beans supply steady protein and fibre. Daily fruit gives vitamin C and antioxidants linked to lower cancer risk. A large midday meal and a lighter dinner supports metabolic health long term. And most of this food is homegrown or locally produced, fresh, seasonal, and minimally processed. And here's the historical proof. The team checked historical dietary surveys from 1969, 1978, and 1982, and found the same staples: tortillas, rice, beans, and fruit. Field interviews echoed those surveys. Centenarians repeatedly said beans, rice, and fruit. Garden tours like Aurelianos showed dozens of edible species grown right behind people's houses. Fruit trees, beans, corn, squash. This long-standing food culture threads through generations. So diet in Nicoya isn't exotic. It's simple, local, and habitual. Maize treated the old way, beans every day, and fruit constantly. Movement, active by design. The secret isn't workouts, it's a life that moves. On Nicoya, activity is built into the day. People walk to the market, tend gardens, haul water, chop wood, and do the chores that keep a household running. That steady, functional movement builds endurance, strength, balance, and mobility without a gym membership. And this is what they're still doing in the 90s and 100s, not what they grew up doing, which would have been much more, a lot of farm kind of work. Panchita rises at 4, fetches eggs, grinds corn by hand, splits wood, clears bush with a machete, presses tortillas, and twice a week walks into town for market and church. She's 100 and every part of her day is movement. When she was growing up, her family grew most of their own food. When they needed salt or sugar, Panchita would walk the 18 miles to town and back to get it. Many men grew up farming, mule driving, hauling logs. Work started early and demanded strength, but it was steady, not frantic. Decades of moderate, repeatable labour built durable bodies. For example, Dan Faustino's weekly market trek, selecting produce, carrying it home, preparing the family's Sunday soup, is ritual and exercise rolled into one. So just make movement part of your day. Walk, carry, garden, take the stairs. Spread 30 to 45 minutes of functional movement through your day, rather than treating exercise as one isolated task. Small motions, repeated for years, beat occasional intensity. Sleep and daily rhythm. Predictable beats matter. If movement is the engine, rhythm is the timing belt. Nicoyans live by a steady pattern. Up with the sun, active mornings, a slower midday, a light evening, and regular sleep. Most elders average about 7 to 9 hours at night and keep consistent bed and wake routines. That consistency supports hormone balance, immune strength, heart health, and memory. People still living the authentic, traditional lifestyle said, "We wake up when the sun rises and make breakfast for the family, and then Ananias takes our boys into the fields. Meanwhile, the girls and I stay home and clean up. At noon or so, the men come back. We eat our strong meal and then relax. We maybe visit someone like today, or someone visits us. We have a lighter dinner. Usually we're in bed by 8:30, she concluded. When researchers asked 90-year-old Juvenil Munoz when he sleeps, he answered simply, when the sun sets, when the sun rises. You don't need perfect sleep, you need routine. Go to bed and wake up near the same time each day. Keep your room dark, quiet, and cool. Sun/vitamin D, small, regular exposure. Nicoyans live where the sun is reliable, and they use it sensibly. Daily outdoor life, market walks, gardening, sitting with family, produces regular, moderate sun exposure that helps the body make vitamin D. About 10 to 20 minutes on arms and legs without burning often suffices. Combine that with calcium from nixtamalized corn and mineral-rich water, and you get a small, cumulative advantage for bone strength and overall function. Diet, movement, and steady daily rhythm are the practical how. Next we'll look at why these habits stick, family, faith, and purpose, and the things specific to Nicoya. Stay with me. What's specific to Nicoya? Mindset, family, and culture. We've covered the mechanics, diet, movement, rhythm. Now, ask the deeper question. Why do these habits stick for decades? Plan de vida. A reason to wake up. Many people in Nicoya Peninsula describe having a plan de vida, a simple, everyday purpose that gets them out of bed. Think of it like Ikigai in Okinawa, another blue zone, but grounded in chores and relationships. Feed the animals, cook for the family, tend the garden, walk to church, help a neighbour. Dr. Zinnia Fernandez noticed the same pattern when she interviewed the most highly functioning people over 90. They feel a strong sense of service to others or care for their family. We see that as soon as they lose this, the switch goes off. They die very quickly if they don't feel needed. Purpose here isn't a motivational platitude, it's daily fuel. Family and safety nets. In Nicoya, family is the default social policy. Multi-generational households are normal. Grandparents live with children and grandchildren all right next door, and people get visitors almost every afternoon. That constant connection is a built-in safety net, emotional, practical, and social. As Elizabeth Lopez observed after interviewing dozens of elders, all but one of the 33 Nicoyans we met live with their family. That closeness makes loneliness rare, and loneliness is one of the biggest health risks in modern societies. Visits aren't just polite calls, they're help with chores, shared meals, company on the porch, and quick checks when someone needs medicine or food. That network keeps elders engaged and makes small problems solvable before they become crises. One subtle pattern the researchers noticed: men often report less day-to-day worry about children and household duties than women do. A cultural difference that appears to lower men's visible stress. Bottom line, Nicoya's family structure turns aging from an isolated experience into a shared one. That social fabric, frequent visitors, multi-generational homes, and neighbours who check in, is longevity insurance you can't buy at a pharmacy. They grow their own food. This is a massive one in every single blue zone, because when you grow your own food properly and organically, it's way better quality than any food you can buy from supermarkets. Gardens sit behind most homes in Nicoya Peninsula. Families tend rows of beans and corn, patches of squash, and dozens of fruit trees, and many are wild as well, which is even better. Not as a hobby, but as everyday life, it's just normal for them to always have grown their own food. Some of the researchers read Aureliano Rosales, whose yard they called a private Garden of Eden. He showed them bananas, lemons, oranges, and wild exotic fruit like maranone, as mentioned earlier, very high in vitamin C, annona, and wild ginger. And there's actually a massive list in the book. I'm obviously not going to just list every single thing of all these different fruits and wild fruits and veg that grows here, something like 40 different species. That biodiversity layers micronutrients into the diet naturally, year after year. Researchers noticed this might also explain why Aureliano was so robust and strong while living all his life in relative poverty. His fresh, organic, nutrient-rich diet, along with traditional nixtamalized corn, maize nix quesado, helps explain why this 91-year-old looks 60. Growing food here isn't only about calories. It ties people to daily work, seasonal rhythms, and an identity of self-reliance and sharing. Nutrient density plus meaningful physical activity. That's a powerful combination in Nicoya's longevity story. Something in the water. The Nicoya Peninsula sits on limestone bedrock, and as rainwater filters through that rock, it becomes mineral rich, unusually hard, and high levels of magnesium and calcium. Researchers who tested household water across the region found concentrations so elevated they had to dilute samples just to measure them. Over decades, that steady intake of minerals may support bone density and heart function. Calcium is essential for muscle contraction, including the heart, and for slowing age-related bone loss. Large population studies have also observed that communities drinking harder, mineral-rich water have up to 25% fewer deaths from heart disease than populations with soft water. It's not a fountain of youth claim, and researchers are careful not to overstate it, but as a lifelong daily exposure, this mineral-rich water could be one more quiet advantage layered into Nicoya's remarkable longevity. Faith, positivity, and a lower stress profile. Faith is woven into everyday life in Nicoya, and researchers kept noticing how upbeat people were. Elizabeth Lopez reported that the most highly functioning elders often say, "I feel good thanks to God," even when their bodies ache. That external focus of control, the sense that God provides, shows up again and again. In one small telling moment, Panchita was handed $20 and simply said, "I had no money to buy food, but I knew God would provide." That calm acceptance, reinforced with frequent religious ritual and steady social contact, appears to lower chronic stress. Chronic stress is one of the biggest accelerators of aging, so a community that combines faith, frequent visitors, and a positive outlook gains a quiet but powerful resilience. Researchers like Gianni know it's not magic. Faith sits alongside diet, movement, and family, but it's one of the social forces that helps Nicoyans stay mentally and physically robust into old age. A simple, modest life. Economic modesty matters. Limited cash income, subsistence gardens, and a culture that values being busy over being wealthy means less processed food, fewer vices, and more purposeful work. People stay active and satisfied with less. Put together, these elements create a system. Purpose keeps people engaged. Family keeps them connected. Gardens and chores keep them moving. Mineral-rich water quietly supports their bodies. And faith and community lowers stress. Those social and environmental layers turn healthy choices from chores into ordinary life. So diet and movement are the how. Culture, plan de vida, family, faith, place is the why. Okay, quick recap. Nicoya Peninsula isn't about one miracle. It's a cluster of small, daily habits, amplified by family and culture. Maize nix quesado and beans, loads of fresh fruit, steady physical work, predictable sleep and meal rhythms, mineral-rich water, and, most of all, a practiced plan de vida that keeps people needed and moving. 3 things to try this week. Number 1, make lunch your biggest meal. Move your largest, most nutrient-dense meal to midday. Soup or stew, beans or lentils, grains, lots of veg. And keep dinner light and earlier. Try it 7 days and notice energy and sleep. Number 2, add 2 functional movement sessions. Do things you'll actually keep doing. 30 to 45 minute walk, 30 to 45 minutes of gardening, carrying groceries, or 2 15-minute bodyweight sessions. It's consistency over intensity. Number 3, create a tiny plan de vida ritual. So in Nicoya, it's partly to do with helping other people out and like why you're needed. So you could write a sentence down saying, "I am needed because," share it with someone and commit to 1 weekly act of service. Cook for a neighbour, help a relative, volunteer an hour. But it is mainly in all the other cultures as well, like I said, Ikigai with Japan, Okinawa. It's about just having a purpose, something to get up in the morning, something you feel like you're put on earth to do, like something you have a passion for. Purpose is social glue. Make it concrete. Nicoya's lesson is refreshingly simple. Build days that matter. Eat whole foods. Move with purpose, sleep regularly, stay rooted in family and community, and keep feeling needed. Do that and you don't just add years to life, you add life to years. Next video we're heading to Nicoya, Greece, the last blue zone, with a very different recipe for long life. Subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't miss it. If you learned something new, please like and subscribe to keep learning. If you know anyone that's interested in this kind of content, please share this to them as it really helps me out. If you want to watch any of my other videos in this series or the next video is out, then the playlist will be on screen now. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. And remember, stay positive even when it seems everything is against you.